Good evening and welcome to another episode of In the Trees with your host, Matt
and Derek.
In tonight's episode, we revisit the topic of Bigfoot. Derek, let's hear your opinion again. What do you have to contribute to this conversation so far?
I'm still really skeptical on Bigfoot. I think it's an interesting topic. The whole missing link aspect of things, or just some possible hybrid of, where maybe not necessarily hybrid, but just some, like I said, missing link where it could be some ancestor. Like I said, there's a lot of theories I've heard throughout the last few weeks, just trying to keep on topic with all these conspiracies and stuff like that.
Right. Everybody has their theory. So some things I've learned about Bigfoot. I for one am a firm believer. In my opinion, in a generalized sense of it, I believe Bigfoot to be, in one way or another, a failed experiment, if you will, and not in the way that it hasn't succeeded, because I believe Bigfoot are very intelligent. They exist, for sure. They have every adaptation that they need to survive outside that we don't have. And, a lot of people wonder how intelligent they are. I believe they speak. I believe they communicate with each other. I believe they have a social structure. I believe they have maternal instincts, which all are signs of a very, very intelligent creature. And I really feel that as science in the mainstream academia becomes more, determined to find out what this is, if they haven't already. Again, what if it turns out, a lot of people, a lot of Sasquatch experts will say that they are human-animal hybrids or human hybrids with an unknown part, and they've even done. Have you ever heard of the Sasquatch Genome Project?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
There was a project done about, I want to say 5 years ago, by a group of scientists, and I think it was in Texas. They collected hair samples, physical evidence of Bigfoot, and processed them through gene sequencing. They found out that apparently we share DNA, a lot of DNA, with these Bigfoots, which leads credence to the idea that maybe they are a offshoot of humanity, that back when humanity was still multi-branched, as we've discussed, Denisovians, Neanderthals, all that, maybe one faction evolved and adapted to live in the wild, use the cave system, use nature's resources, who knows? And you tie it in with the Nephilim, you being a biblical aspect. There's only the one mention of the Nephilim in the Bible, but still, what if they're the offspring of giants? The long-standing descendants of giants. Who knows? You really don't know.
It would make sense with the heights, why they, obviously not as tall, but, they've eventually shrunk down and are still kind of hairy.
Oh, yeah. And, folks, I personally believe that one day here soon it'll become mainstream knowledge, because with our government having the capacity that it does not a shadow of a doubt that some branch of the government has a dead or live specimen and have done their fair share of experiments on it. I think, and a lot of experts in the field that have a lot of experience, I won't call them experts, but people that have a lot of experience, like one of the guys we're going to show you guys here in a second, Jim Myers, he kind of shares the same thing, but he thinks that they're far more human than animal hybrid. I'm on the fence about that. Kind of like with Neanderthals.
Yeah.
I think that they could have had some sort of genetic cross-engineering between human DNA and another type of DNA. And, who's to say we ourselves can now, after the last few years, now we can modify our DNA with CRISPR technology like you've heard about in China and stuff. So what's to say some advanced species, now this goes kind of towards the alien theory, that didn't say, hey, let's give this a whirl, let's see what happens. Let it go. They did well, but it wasn't what they wanted. And they said, okay, we're going to move on to the next one.
Yeah, it could have been like a little test run.
Right.
I don't know how deep in government, they would want to be like, all right, so guys, day one, we got Bigfoot, couple, corpses of Bigfoot over here. Don't let anybody else know about this.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, I could see maybe if that was the case where, there was some government conspiracy that they hide Bigfoot, it would be mainly solely due to the fact that there's some linking to, like I said, maybe like a missing link, or
right.
Possibly that would just, disrupt us. I mentioned, we've brought in like the Nephilims a couple times, and I've heard theories on maybe not necessarily even those being giants necessarily, but the fact that they could be an offshoot of, when the mankind first started coming together, there was, the son of like Seth, which is like one of Adam's other kids, and then the offsprings of Cain, which were supposed to be cursed after killing the first of the other son.
Right.
So those, a lot of the offshoots of humans could be from that lineage of, that. Again, that's another giant topic.
Well, they've already proven that there was over 30 different human subspecies before us, Homo sapiens sapien, finally took the win. That's so I don't doubt it's not that far of a stretch of an imagination for me to think of something along the lines of just a civilization that's 100 years ahead of us would have very advanced gene editing technology. We're already at that precipice, but I wonder
a lot too.
Right. And there's different types of Bigfoots, but let's roll the clip of, folks, here's a clip of Jim Myers describing his own personal experience. Jim Myers is a renowned Bigfoot expert in Colorado, Bailey, Colorado. A little bit of background for him. And Derek, roll the clip.
All right, hold on. We'll get it going.
Okay.
Sightings and vocalizations. We were camping there. Went out early in the morning to go do some fishing. Everyone else in the campsite was asleep.
Right,
as
okay,
far
so
as
this is
I
what
knew.
he's kind of going into.
There's a mountain, a rock mountain at one end of the lake called the Castle.
And there's
And
50
the
to
rocks kind of
60,000
come around the sides of the
known
lake. in little
documented
ways. And I
Bigfoot
was
sightings.
fishing,
I mean, that's
fly
a
fish.
lot.
I had just cast, and I was just looking around, and I looked up to my right, and there's a big rock outcropping, maybe
And most of the time
200
it's people
yards
going out
away.
in forest.
And
Most
there
of
was
the time
something
it's people
standing up
that
there,
are obviously
looking
camping.
down.
You're not going to see them
I
walking
could tell it was
suburbia.
very
They're not
large.
stupid.
It was uniform in color.
An animal would do that.
And of course, right at that moment, as fate would have it, a fish pulled on my line. So I turned to look at the fish, and I looked back, and it was gone.
Gone that quickly.
That quickly.
What did it seem human?
It did not. It wasn't a human. I could tell that, but it was human-like, and that was standing on two legs, looking down from the rock. I didn't get the sense it was looking at me. It was just looking downwards towards the lake, and maybe it saw me, and that's why it disappeared. I don't know, but I learned a lesson: never take your eyes off of a Sasquatch
So
if you
that
see
quick.
one. Yeah.
I had a caller.
And you see, he's really touching base on, how quick most of the sightings are. You'd be surprised that a lot of the sightings are less than a minute. If a Bigfoot can smell you from 2 miles away, and a lot of scientists say they have an extremely advanced sense of smell and visual skills because it's part of the adaptation of the wild. If you're talking about an animal that can smell you 2 miles away, see you a mile away, if it doesn't want you to see it, it doesn't want you to see it.
Yeah, I mean, people smell like crap most of the time anyway.
Well, we carry a distinct odor in the pheromone,
Well, yeah, I mean,
department.
that's with hunting in general,
right.
too. I mean,
If a deer catches your scent, it's gone.
If you're downwind of a
Absolutely,
deer, yeah.
Absolutely. So there's all across the world except maybe Africa, Central Africa. Have I not seen stories or cultural representations of Bigfoot? There's different types, and every region has its own adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
You talk about the Yeti. They describe it as a white 8 foot
Yeah.
tall.
In Pokemon, it's different variants.
Right, right. But some are more aggressive than others. Some are a little bit more territorial. Some are more socially inclined. Some are just different various aspects based on the last 20,000, 30,000. Let's say it's been around for 100,000 years.
It'd be comparing like a polar bear and a grizzly bear.
Right, exactly. In fact,
They definitely are big. They're ones that are bigger than the others. They definitely have different type of hunting habits. They're one has a lot more blubber, which would make sense why it would seem bigger, like the polar bear or maybe
Right.
the Yeti.
Right,
They got to survive
right.
in that kind of more of a hostile environment, which
Right.
is like that ice cold.
we ain't making it out there, that's for sure. You surviving in the app? No, I'm not going to the Himalayas anytime soon.
But even like you've mentioned, and just North America, there was just throughout from like basically Washington to basically Oklahoma. I'm not even sure. I'm sure there was even some more on the East Coast, but there's different native names, or different native tribes have different names for it.
Yeah. In fact, let's show the folks. Folks, here's a clip about the different types that George Norrie and the other young man are talking about in this episode. Check out what they have to say. Roll the clip.
Sasquatch is that every Native American
This is the
tribe
different names
that
for the
I
different-
have encountered.
Check
has
out
their
all those
own
different
name
Native American names
for
based on the
Sasquatch
tribe.
and
You have the
tradition
Hoopa,
about
the
Sasquatch.
Lakota, the Iroquois,
To me,
which
this
were
is one
up
of the
there in
most
the
compelling-
Northeast.
We can
So that's
pause it.
everywhere.
See this. But yeah, definitely. Like everywhere.
That's everywhere.
Face
That's
it.
Seminole, Cherokee. That's Southeast. That's Northeast. Navajo. That's Midwest.
Evil God of the woods.
Look at that. Big God. Hairy Savage. Tall man.
The Seminole, I think that's one of a...
Seminole are part of the 5 civilized tribes of
Yeah.
Oklahoma. Yes.
Okay. So that's, this clip. I mean, we don't have to really play this full clip of this one, but
Yeah.
we just kind of wanted to talk about there are a lot of names as well that you can go with on these things.
Yeah, and one of the biggest proving points to the existence of Sasquatch, in my opinion, just like that young man says, is the fact that Native Americans wouldn't have created a name for something that they didn't know for a fact existed. Sorry. Now you're comparing human beings that really have no sense of back then would have had no sense of the word popularity or monetary gain or fame. Anything that drives a modern human being to, oh yeah, I saw Bigfoot and I hear it, crossed across my river,
I know typically Native Americans didn't have that too many like horror legends. Like most of their stuff were either like legit legends or like, hey, like, I just know when it comes to like, at least when it comes to like Choctaw, a lot of the more Oklahoma ones, they don't really have too many scary story legends.
No.
But the ones they do kind of have to bring up all kind of having to do with like Bigfoot-esque type.
Yeah. So, I in fact roll the clip on about what they are, because folks, this is incredible about the little bit of scientific information that we have going for it. Roll the clip, Derek.
Pedal, their intelligence level.
They reason.
They have a language.
See,
that's
even
very
that guy
similar to
believes
our
that they have their
language.
own language.
I don't think an
But
extinct
again,
ape had that.
it's not an
And
extinct
so
ape,
they're
because
far
a
more
lot of people,
human
one
than
of the
not.
other running theories is
That's why I believe that
Gigantopithecus.
they're not an extinct, a relative of an extinct great ape.
There have been some DNA studies on hair samples and things like that, and they do show strange anomalies here, don't they?
They do, and it actually shows that Sasquatch is probably a human
Wait till they kinda,
hybrid,
like, die off.
that they are part human
To
and
add to
part
it, you know what I mean?
unknown.
Right.
The unknown means
I think this is
in,
that
in
database
the
you were kinda talking
genome
about
database,
earlier.
it doesn't
Yeah.
appear. It's not
I
there.
have heard, Jim, that it's a
Yeah,
Earth-based
absolutely.
creature, like you just said, extraterrestrial.
Even extraterrestrial.
Something
That's quite the
dimensional.
possibility. I'm totally
These
down for
theories
that.
come out from all over the
I
place.
don't know
What
about
is
that.
your
That starts
gut
getting to
tell?
the South Park
If
level.
you had
Hey,
asked me
I'm
that
just
10
saying,
years ago, I
it
would have
is
said
not
they were
outside
only a
the
flesh
realm
and
of
blood creature
believability.
of some kind. But I've had so many experiences and know personally so many people who've had experiences such as a Sasquatch disappearing in front of their eyes, literally disappearing, or seeing something cloaked in the woods where you can see it, but it's not there. That I am convinced that they
we only
do
got,
not
like,
exist only in this dimension.
videos left.
They go somewhere else. I couldn't tell you where that is, but
I swear to God,
I don't think they're only physical. I think there's more to them than purely what we can see.
E.T.?
Possibly. I mean, are they, if they're a human hybrid, when did that mix happen?
Right.
Is the question.
And were they dumped here, or do they come and
Correct.
go? Who knows? What is the Sasquatch Outpost?
So the Sasquatch Outpost is both a store where we sell Sasquatch souvenirs and an experience, the Sasquatch encounter. And I try to separate those.
Okay, so that was an interesting little clip.
Yeah, just discussing what some experts that are actually scientifically capable of figuring out what this actually is. In fact, we here in Oklahoma have such a resoundful belief in Bigfoot that they created legislature for it. Go ahead and roll the clip about the Oklahoma Bigfoot season for everybody. Just here for us only, good old Okie.
Representative Justin Humphrey has filed legislation that would establish a Bigfoot hunting season in the state.
We pay
The
that
bill
man's
would work
salary.
with Oklahoma Wildlife
Pretty
Conservation
much, yeah.
Division to
Taxpayers.
establish the dates of season,
That
licensing,
man in a tin
and
can
fees.
hat.
Humphreys is also hoping
Making
to
that money off
establish a
Bigfoot. They definitely want us
$25,000
to
bounty
trap
for
them
anyone
more,
who
though, I
captures
think.
the creature.
You give an
Adding,
Oklahoma
he doesn't want anyone to kill
person a
Bigfoot, but
hunting
rather the
license.
license would specify
and you tell them
trapping
to only trap.
Humphrey
Good
said in
luck.
a statement,
Yeah.
quote, establishing an actual hunting season and issuing licenses for people who want to hunt Bigfoot will just draw more people to our already beautiful part of the state. It will be a great...
All right, that was that.
Yeah, yeah. So here in Oklahoma, we have our own Bigfoot hunting season. Apparently, I didn't even know that. I don't see any other states following that, but yeah, leave it to us to be the groundbreaking state for that. Oh my God. But regardless, so there's a lot of people that have dedicated a lot of time to keeping track of how many things, and you got to be an outdoorsman. Let's be honest. You're going to see more sightings in the winter, or not in the winter, in the summer, the fall, the spring when we are out and stuff. But sightings are as frequent as you want to talk about, because a lot of people that have seen them don't talk about it. There's still the stigma.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that. I wouldn't want to just be like, oh yeah, unless I recorded it, I wouldn't probably say anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I might mention it like, oh yeah, dude, I was out there one day and I was just seeing and I saw a big old Bigfoot and and he waved at me or something like that.
Right.
But unless I recorded it, I wouldn't be bringing it up at all.
Yeah, no, and I get it. No, check out. So Jim Myers, actually, the guy we played in that first one, he actually is a curator of a museum dedicated, in Bailey, Colorado. Roll the clip for everybody.
This is actually a really cool museum. Definitely, one day when we actually take a vacation, when we can actually, have time off.
Yeah, this has got to be on our top list.
So we're
for our
about to
viewers
enter the inner sanctum of the Sasquatch Outpost, which is the Sasquatch Encounter Discovery
that's
Museum.
dedication.
So if you come with me, we'll head on in.
They have a museum like that in Oklahoma. I mean, not as fancy, but I bet they have something pretty cool there. They basically just look like monkeys to me.
This is a loop of recordings from around the country of Sasquatch vocalizations, different types. As you can hear them laughing, talking,
they've actually recorded
howling,
voices,
whooping. I just wanted to give people some idea of
Bigfoot,
what does a Sasquatch
talking,
sound like.
And everything else.
And as you can hear, they actually
Allegedly.
talk. They have
Allegedly.
their own language.
Like even just
This
like
is
the
something that we
physical
found
evidence.
back in about
Look at that.
2013. I found a set of elk tracks where the elk was actually running and it was defecating as it ran, which I thought was
That's
unusual.
a kill site.
I followed the tracks till I came upon
Look at
this
that. Where did the deer go
imprint on an
then?
elk's body
You
in
notice
the
he
snow.
says the deer did not go anywhere
like an
else.
elk stamp. It's like it was running and it hit the snow and stopped dead. And I could see the legs, I could see the neck, the head. This elk
Bigfoot?
did not move when it hit the snow. Then we noticed another set of tracks coming from a different direction that were 10 to 12 feet apart with every stride. And the two sets of tracks converged right here, where this elk was in the snow. And then the big tracks just carried on. And our assumption is this elk was somehow knocked down by a Sasquatch, which then picked it up and carried it off, which is probably 400 or 500 pounds dead weight. Given that there were no elk tracks leaving this location, the only explanation we could come up with is that it was picked up and carried off. The easiest way to know if Sasquatch is active in an area is looking for what they do with trees. And tree breaks is the most common
it's so
one that
interesting.
we find, where
Yeah.
trees are
No.
broken and
Tree
left
breaks,
hanging,
symmetrical.
always the same
Wait till
way.
he shows you the thing about
Or
where they twisted off a
tree arches,
It
which
was a
are
green
trees that are bent
sapling.
over and then stuck
A green
in the
sapling,
ground or
5
stuck
inches thick,
under another
sheared
tree
off with a
to
grip.
keep
Do you
this
know how
arch
freaking
shape.
strong you have to
And
be for that?
sometimes I've seen these
Yeah,
up to 15
your grip
feet
strength would have to be
high,
incredible.
coming down and then
Inhuman
stuck
would be
in the
the word.
ground maybe a
That
foot
would be
to
interesting
keep
as hell
that
to see
tree
like a
bent.
tree like that.
These are
Watch.
classic signs, and I
He
find them
took it
everywhere I
out
go
of
in
the ground.
Colorado. So I have a few examples
Right
of what
there.
we're talking about when it comes to tree breaks. This is a classic one.
I
where it's
mean,
twisted
just
and bent.
read.
This one is unusual. We found this near the Wigwam Trail, and this tree was green when it was found, and it had been
green.
twisted off like a bottle cap. The amount
Twisted
of
off like a bottle cap.
strength they would take in the grip of a hand to twist
Can you
this off
imagine
and then just
the
drop
strength?
it is
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure a lot
unbelievable.
of things could
This
actually
is a
make
map that we've
like
had
not
since we
necessarily
started
like
the museum, and
organic
every pin
life,
on here
but
is
some
a
type of
story.
machinery.
Look how
Every
many
story
sightings that
was
dude
told to
has
myself or
just
my
on
wife.
his own.
The
from
red ones
all around
are
Colorado.
actual visual sightings of a Sasquatch.
I'm just
Yellow
saying,
ones
that's-
have to do
that's
with
a
some kind of
lot
a tree structure
of
like we spoke
information that
about.
they're building.
Black are footprints. Green is some kind of a vocalization. And blue is an object that was thrown at someone while they were out hiking. So this is the whole state
a big
This is
map.
Bailey right here.
That's a
but
long
there were
map.
so many sightings in Bailey, I had to blow it up and
This is
create
kind of
a
just
second
wrapping
map
up on his
just
activity
of
stuff.
In my opinion, 100% Bigfoot exists. 100%. No, not a shadow of doubt. Proving it scientifically is coming. You wait. It's going to be on the mainstream news one day. But I think we've already done it. I just don't think it's publicly available information. It's probably at Area 51.
I mean, I don't know if I feel like if we ever were to discover Bigfoot, it will be like, all right, cool, we found Bigfoot. So next day, we you know, it's, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that big of a thing if it actually were to be discovered. That's why I feel like, you know, being hidden by the government. No, maybe just by the sheer size of the woods and like maybe the numbers of them. That might be why they're still staying elusive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't feel like, you know, maybe any governmental conspiracy behind why they wouldn't be like open about it. I think it's just either one, they're just too small of a number, which would still kind of take how long do they live for, and then, you know, just the number game. You know, there's only like, you know, 100,000 left in the world, you know, throughout, you know, a huge thicket of, you know,
The
millions
woods.
of acres.
Yeah. That's going to be
you're not
hard to
gonna
find.
really- yeah. Yeah, guys, I think that was episode 9.
Yeah.
I think, shoot, I don't know how many we're going to go. Eventually, we'll be at like 1,000, but this is episode 9 of, you know, In the Trees with
Matt,
and Derek. Guys, like, share, definitely share.
make sure to subscribe to Twitter and our Reddit at In the Trees.